Oh my goodness, everybody. It is time. The April 2023 public update preview patch has gone live, and this is the big one. There are over 70 balance changes in this patch by my count, and oh man, there is so much to unpack here. I'm just going to go and run through all the changes with you guys and give you my thoughts. I'll also write them all down in the description to this video. This isn't like an official list or anything, so if you find something that I might have missed, definitely let me know. But yeah, right now we're just going to go run through these. There is plenty of time in the near future for more videos on some specifics of these changes, because there are some really interesting ones. So, subscribe to the channel if you want to see some content on that. And with that sellout complete, let's just get right into it. All right, we are here in our good friend, the tech tree. And first and foremost, guys, you will notice that there is a new technology, a basic sort of available to many different civs type technologies. It is called Gambesons, and it is 100 food, 100 gold, available in the Castle Age, and it gives the militia line +1 pierce armor. So this is a big game changer because it means that your swordsman line are going to have the same pierce armor effectively as knights or light cav or whatever. And this will go all the way down to champions and apply to those units. So your late game champions are having the same pierce armor as a hussar or a cavalier. Is this going to be enough to make infantry in the mid game more viable? I don't know, but resilience to archers is a pretty strong boost to the unit. Now, this tech is not available to all civilizations. Here, I'll actually just put up on screen a big old list right about now that shows all of the different civs that have access to it. In general, if a civ has supplies, it probably has access to Gambesons, although there are several exceptions. So, yeah, I'll run through if a civ gets Gambesons when I go through each of the civs, but yeah, just for quick reference, that's probably been on screen for several seconds now. So we can talk more about that in the future, but let's get into some of these other general changes. So first is actually going to come to the Eagle line. They are receiving a small nerf. You can see right there they now cost 25 food and 50 gold. They used to cost 20 food and 50 gold. So all Eagle warriors for all civilizations are now a little bit more expensive on the food cost. So that's what, 25% food cost percent increase? And that is, it's a bit of a nerf. The thing with the Eagles is that you can make them very effective on low economy because gold collects really quickly so long as you have access to it, and you don't need a huge food economy like with tons of farms to spam a bunch of Eagle warriors. Now, Aztecs still have a strong farming eco, Incas will have a bonus, as we'll get to in a little bit, and Mayans are Mayans. So this is just a slight nerf to Eagle warriors that will make them a bit more difficult to mass, especially in the Feudal Age and early Castle Age when your food income is still quite low. But still, obviously, the units themselves are going to be just as effective. Next, the Longswordsman upgrade. So the upgrade to, change your men-at-arms into Longswordsmen. That has had its research time decreased from 45 seconds to 40 seconds. So the upgrade can come in a little bit quicker. Again, this is part of the initiative to make the swordsman play a bit better in general. Same thing for two-handed swordsmen. The upgrade used to be 75 seconds to research, and now it is 60 seconds, so 15 seconds less. And to round things out, we will have the champion upgrade. It used to be 100 seconds to come in, and now it is 85 seconds, so 15 seconds decrease for that one as well. In a similar vein, pikemen. This is actually getting two decent buffs. We have the research time of the upgrade decreasing from 45 seconds to 35 seconds, so pikemen can come in more quickly. This is going to be nice if you're finding yourself overwhelmed by knights in the early to mid Castle Age. And also, and perhaps more impactfully, the cost of the upgrade is reduced. You can see it's now 160 food and 90 gold. It used to be 215 food and 90 gold. So you're saving, what is that, 55 food? Which is pretty decent, and it makes pikemen just that much more approachable or accessible for civilizations, and this is going to be great, especially for players of all skill levels if they're finding themselves overwhelmed with knights. Also, that switch into halbs in the late game is just a little bit easier, although your economy is bigger then, so it's not as big of a deal. Lastly, for your infantry buffs, you have good old supplies. The effect and cost is still the same, but now it will come in 20 seconds instead of 35 seconds. if you're making a big swordsman-centric play, you usually want to be getting supplies before you start spamming your infantry, at least if you're going for anything other than a men-at-arm rush or a drush. So making sure that this comes in really quickly is quite important. And now it's 75 food, 75 gold, really big effect, and it only takes 20 seconds to research. Remember, a villager takes 25 seconds to train, so it is shorter than a villager creation time. Really, really nice buff there, because everything is just pointing towards the swordsman play. More general changes. This next one is going to be to the Elite Step Lancer unit, specifically the Elite version. You can see now on screen they have 2 Pierce Armor base as opposed to 1 Pierce Armor base. Like I said, regular Step Lancer, still base 1 base Pierce Armor, but now the Elite version of the unit is stronger. It makes their Pierce Armor the same as a Cavalier or a Hussar. And that is going to make the unit much more viable in the early game. Ever since Tato dominated Leary with them in the Red Bull finals last autumn, the unit's becoming increasingly popular, and now it's actually seen quite often. But still, that was mostly the Castle Age Step Lancer. Elite Step Lancers weren't really seen as often, so I think this is a good change. It's just going to make the unit much more compelling to use in the later stages of the game. And remember, of course, you still have Civ-specific bonuses, like Mongols, they get the extra HP, Tatars can get even more armor, and the Cuman ones can train quite quickly and move a bit faster as well. Next general change is going to be to the Heavy Scorpion upgrade. This has been a long requested one for a good long time. The upgrade cost to this upgrade, very eloquent, is now much less. It used to be 1,000 food and 1,100 wood. Now it is 800 food and 900 wood. So we're looking at 200 less food and 200 less wood to upgrade. Heavy Scorpions, kind of like Step Lancers, Scorpions are a unit that have seen plenty of play in Castle Age, but the Heavy Scorpion was really just restricted to civs like Khmer or Celts. Really the only civs that made a lot of use of Heavy Scorpions in most situations. So now it's just going to be a bit easier to get into that. Personally, I'd like to see them bumped up to 8 range as opposed to 7, but we'll see if this is enough to warrant the use of the unit. Next up is, of all things, the Sappers upgrade. This has been changed in 2 ways. One, it's had a cost switch. It's not technically a reduction. The upgrade used to cost 400 food and 200 gold. Now it's 400 food and 200 wood, and its effect has been altered. It's always made villagers deal 15 more damage against buildings and trees, but it also now gives villagers +3 bonus damage versus rams. Now remember, rams have negative melee armor, so this is going to help them better punch down siege weapons. Now, what is perhaps a little bit, I guess, not intuitive, is that there are other units than rams that get the ram armor class, like trebuchets when unpacked. They count as rams, so villagers will now be even better at punching down trebuchets that are unpacked. So we're likely going to see this upgrade. It's still a niche upgrade, but it's now much more accessible and has a more useful effect. And it's not available to all civilizations, like only around half the civs in the game have access to it. So yeah, we'll have to see if Sappers is going to be used in more high-level play. The next change is going to be to the Elephant Archers, and these guys have been buffed slightly in terms of their creation time. So they used to take 34 seconds to train, and now they train in 30 seconds. It's just going to make massing up these units a little bit easier. Elephant Archers are already in a pretty solid place overall, so yeah, buffing them even more. I mean, your Bengalis, Dravidians, really just Bengalis and Dravidians, are going to likely make better use of these units. In addition, the upgrade to Elite Elephant Archer, as you can see on screen right now, it used to cost 1,000 food and 800 gold, so quite pricey. Now it is 800 wood and 500 gold, so it's switching from food cost to wood cost, which is generally a bit easier to afford, especially since the unit itself costs food. So you're paying a different resource for the upgrade than the unit itself. And it's also just 200 less. So it's going to be, again, a little bit easier to get those elephant archers going in the late game. Next change is going to be to the siege elephants. They got a small nerf in the last patch when it came to their HP. They're now getting another nerf. The upgrade to research to siege elephant from armored elephant used to be 650 food. Now it is 850 food. So it's still cheaper than getting capped ram plus siege ram. Capped ram's 300 food, siege ram is 1,000 food, so 1,300 food in total. This is still cheaper, but it's at least a little bit more comparable. That seems fine to me. And for our last general change, we actually have several adjustments to the cannon galleons, interestingly. So first off, the attack of the cannon galleons have been changed a little bit. Now it is, instead of 35 damage, it is 50, for the regular one, and for the elite cannon galleon, instead of 45 damage, it is now 60. So 15 more for each of the cannon galleon lines. Now you might think that is a pretty sizable buff against units. They have had their bonus damage removed against infantry, archers, cavalry, and Mamelukes. This is really just like a legacy thing, so it's just kind of making the damage a bit more streamlined. Cannon galleons have also had a little bit of their bonus damage versus siege reduced, again, just to make up for this difference. This will make cannon galleons more effective versus other ships, though, as they didn't really receive any particular bonus damage versus them. So cannon galleon's going to be a bit better versus units. But this is the interesting one. Now, cannon galleons, of course, look a lot like bombard cannons, just one is mounted on a ship, but notably cannon galleons didn't deal blast damage. That has been changed. Now cannon galleons receive a tiny amount of blast damage. Regular cannon galleons will have a blast radius of 0.25 tiles, 0.25 tiles, yeah. This is half a bombard cannon. So if you think about the blast damage a bombard cannon does, that is 0.5 tiles, it's literally half of that, or less than half, because circles. So it's not that much. Now, elite cannon galleons, they have 0.3, so a little bit more. Unless you're having a bunch of clumped up archers, I don't think this is going to matter a ton, but still, the cannon galleon's general utility has been increased with this slew of changes. It's just better against things other than buildings. So good stuff. Anyway, those are all of the general changes. Some really nice quality of life adjustments, some well-placed buffs to infantry, some nerfs to things like eagle warriors, getting some buffs to things like steppe lancers and heavy scorpions. Just these nice little changes that I think are gonna fit in really well in the metagame at all skill levels. But now let's get into these Civ-specific changes, and there are plenty of them. So we're just gonna go ahead right away and begin here with the Aztecs. Aztecs, their only change is that they received Gambesons. Now, Aztec champions are already really good. You get an extra 4 attack with Garland Wars, and they train faster, so now Aztec champions are going to be even more viable. I do think this hurts the Jaguar Warriors' viability a lot, because the two units filled a similar role. I mean, already you had supplies coming in, and yeah, Jaguar Warriors, they only have 1 native Pierce armor, so it's going to be worse than champions there as well. So I'm a little sad that the Jags didn't get any buffs, because they're already really situational units, but, well, that is as it is. Aztec champs definitely going to be much stronger now, especially since there's also the Eagle nerf. Bengalis getting some interesting changes. So, first, they have another bonus. Cavalry gain +2 attack versus skirmishers. So this is specifically melee cavalry. So scout cavalry, light cavalry, battle elephants, and then the armored/siege elephants. Ratha's also in melee mode, I believe. Okay, I just double checked it in the editor, and it does apply to Rathas in melee mode. You can see 19 HP going down to 7. So yeah, it does affect Rathas in melee mode, as well as elephants and light cav. So interesting change. It definitely helps Rathas overcome a bit of their weakness to skirmishers. Elephants and light cav are already really good against skirmishers, so this just makes them even better. Is this enough to overcome the Civ's overall weakness to skirmishers because you don't have knights? We'll have to see, but it's an interesting approach for sure. Next change to the Bengalis is to the Mahayana tech. Now, in addition to villagers taking up 10% less pop space, monks do so as well. This is a change I really don't see the point in this. You're not using more than 10 monks in the Imperial Age in almost every situation, at least not if you have a castle and this upgrade research. Like, if you're using monks and imp, it's like a 1TC fast imp sort of thing that you can't afford an 800 wood, 650 gold unique tech for your, 20 monks or whatever. You're clowning it. I'd much rather see this tech benefit trade carts and trade cogs and fishing ships. All of your economic units. So I'm not really a big fan of this change. I don't think it accomplishes a whole lot. Final changes to the Bengalis is that they now receive both supplies and gambesons. So Bengali infantry, like mainline infantry, you have champions, but you do miss that last armor upgrade. So it's not like the champions are going to be all that great, and now maybe countering Eagle Warriors is going to be a little bit easier with the Civ. Yeah, I don't think this is going to make too big of a difference, but at least the Civ has a few more options available to it. In general, Bengalis, I think, are still largely going to be in the same place that they were, mostly strong on closed maps and water maps, but this might help make the Civ at least feel a little bit more well-rounded. Next up is the Berbers, and they actually received a small nerf. They used to have just villagers that were 10% faster starting at the beginning of the game. Now they're only 5% faster in Dark Age, and then 10% starting in Feudal Age. This is a nerf to just Vil fighting with Berbers. It weakens them a bit on Nomad as well. As you'll see, there's been a lot of changes to make Nomad a bit more streamlined in the early game, and I don't think the devs are a huge fan of the mass Vil fights. So yeah, this is definitely a small nerf to the Civ. Also, the Berbers were a Civ that used to have fully upgraded champions, but they did not receive Gambesson, so now they no longer have fully upgraded champions. So some small nerfs to Berbers. Next up is the Bohemians, and before I forget, this was another Civ that formerly had fully upgraded champions, but they did not receive Gambesson, so Bohemian champions just not going to be quite as good as other Civs. Now, as far as Civ-specific changes goes, we actually had a small buff to the Hussite Reforms upgrade. It used to cost 800 food and 450 gold, and now as you can see, it costs 500 food and 450 gold, so 300 food less for this very niche upgrade. It's still going to be very niche. Kind of like with Mahayana, if you can afford this tech, monks are probably not very effective anyway. Because if you're going for fast imp with Bohemians, which is very strong, you're not having the resources for this unique tech, no matter what. And even if you did, gold collects a lot faster than food if you're going for that 1 TC all-in clown play, so I don't really see this making a big difference. Next up is the Britons, and this is the big team game nerf right here. Their team bonus used to be archery ranges work 20% faster. That has been the case since Age of Conquerors, but Britons are just so insanely strong, and as a team game civ, I'm casting a lot of Nations Cup, I'm playing in Nations Cup, and yeah, Britons are just sort of the absolutely prime flank civ, and this is one of the big reasons for it. It's one of the best team bonuses, and now its potency has been dropped. Now, I mean, your archers still do train faster, it's just not by all that much. But honestly, for Britons, it is a good change. I think that is an important one for team game balance, and the civ is still going to be pretty much just as strong for 1v1, so I don't think that's going to make too big of a difference there. Bulgarians, they only had one change, and that is the civ receives Gambesons, and this is a pretty big one for Bulgarians, because remember, you miss champions, but your infantry swordsman line upgrades are free, and you get the Frodo Baggins tech to give your swordsman extra melee armor. So now you can get 1 extra pierce armor for your swordsman, who also get extra melee armor, and you're looking at some tanky swordsmen that are really easy to go for. So I wonder if Bulgarians are going to be more likely to lean into this part of their tech tree, which was formerly not used that much, because usually you're just going for a bunch of cavalry. Burgundians, oh boy. They got a nerf to the button, and I'm very, very excited for it. Now, you might look at that cost and think, oh no, what on earth have they done? Flemish Revolution's cost is going to work like spies. The base cost is 200 food and 150 gold, and as you can see on the screen right there, you have plus 10 food and plus 5 gold for every villager. So if you have 100 villagers to transform, this is suddenly 1,200 food and 650 gold. It's going to be really, really expensive to go for in a pro game. Also, the Flemish militia themselves, they have been adjusted. You can see now that after you get the Flemish Revolution tech, you can train them at the barracks. Now, that might seem like a big buff, and in some ways it is. They're also cheaper. They used to be 60 food, 25 gold. Now they are 50 food and 15 gold, so 10 less food and 5 less gold. 10 less gold, I can count. But the unit is a lot weaker. They now have 60 HP instead of 75, they have 11 attack instead of 12, and they now have 0 base pierce armor instead of 1 base pierce armor. So the unit itself is a lot weaker. I do think this is going to at least play a very big role in hopefully removing Flemish Revolution from competitive play. I have never liked that tech, and I like it even less after NAC4. So yeah, sure, why not? So long as we don't see it in high-level games, or most of our latter games, I'm at least semi-content. So good changes, nerfing the button, and maybe making it a little bit more useful in terms of making more Flemish militia, which is fine. Burmese. Of course, this is another civ that received Gambesons and have very strong champions. They get plus 3 attack for free. So now the champion play with Burmese is just going to be even stronger. And they also got a small cost adjustment to the Elite Arambai upgrade. Arambai, of course, a very powerful part of the civilization, and a big reason that we see them picked at all in high-level games. So, the upgrade used to cost 1,100 food and 675 gold. Now it's 1,000 food and 750 gold. So really, they just took 100 of that food cost and shifted it over to gold. Sure, I'm not really sure how much of a difference that's going to make. I guess it's a little bit easier to afford if you're on low eco, and gold is relatively easier to come by than food, and a bit of a nerf in high eco game or like late game, where gold is more valuable. It's a very small change. I'm not too sure what the point of it is, but it's there, and I think I can live with it. Byzantines getting some changes. One, they received Gambesons, as, you know, Byzantine champions still miss Blast Furnace, so it's not like they're top tier, but hey, now they're a little bit more viable, I suppose. But the big one, especially for me, is that Greek Fire, their Castle Age unique tech, it used to only give fire ships +1 range. Now it still does that, but it also gives Bombard Towers 5 blast damage. Oh yeah, Bombard Tower buffs, let's go! Bombard Towers don't normally have any blast damage, and it's not like 5 is a huge amount of blast damage, but hey, it's there, and it makes Bombard Towers better with a really good late-game defensive civ, so I'm happy. Also, it means the tech has any value on land maps, which I also like. Celts getting some changes as well. They do receive Gambesons, so another strong infantry civ. Have your faster moving swordsman, now benefiting from that extra pierce armor. Like Aztecs, Woad Raiders are going to seem even less attractive now because they don't benefit from Gambesons and they don't have 2 pierce armor. So I'd like to maybe see Elite Woad Raiders get that 1 extra pierce armor, but nah. The other change is to their Castle Age unique tech Strongholds, which used to make your castles and towers fire 25% faster. That has been buffed to 33% faster fire rate, so now they should have a reload time of 1.5 instead of 1.7. So, hey, I mean, it's something. The interesting one is that the castles now heal allied infantry in a 7-tile radius. And this health is 30 HP a minute, so it's pretty slow. But if you have a bunch of damaged infantry, it will heal them up, a fair bit. This one we could do some more testing in a future video, and I probably will look into that. We'll have to see how good it is. I mean, Celts have herbal medicine, so they can already just garrison the infantry. I don't know how useful that's going to be, but hey, it's a buff. It's going to make the tech less useless, so I'm a fan of it. Still, overall, Celts are in a really rough spot in the current metagame. Pros generally hate them because they can't go for knights super effectively or crossbowmen super effectively, so what's the point of the civ? They still need to find their place, I think, and I don't really think changing strongholds is going to be a big help. But maybe if infantry suddenly become a lot more viable with the addition of Gambesons, Celts are a pretty good candidate for making this unit useful in a regular game. Chinese. Oh boy, the civ that always has horrible win rates at anything below the top level and really, really high win rates at the top level. Their start is being changed. Now you start with +2 villagers instead of +3. And you start with only minus 150 food instead of minus 200 food. So you start with 1 fewer extra villager, but you also start with 50 more food. This is a slight nerf to them at the high level and a pretty big buff to them at the low level. I don't like this change. I think it actually might be for the best, but personally, Chinese have had starting with +3 villagers since 1999. And they've had the minus 200 food, minus 50 wood since 2000. I mean, it just feels like the start is so iconic with Chinese. I personally wouldn't want to touch it, but I can understand making the civ more accessible to more of the player base, as well as nerfing them a bit at the top level where they're really good. I get it. I don't like it, but I get it. I get it. Next is going to be the Dravidians, and these guys also getting Gambesons, a very strong infantry civ. Remember, you can have Woot Steel, so your infantry ignore armor. You have your barracks upgrades that cost half as much, so Gambesons is actually only going to be 50 food and 50 gold with this civ. So that is pretty nice, and your swordsmen are going to be viable. Now, Urumi not benefiting from Gambesons, I don't think it's that big of a deal, because Urumi do something that's kind of different than champions because you have that blast attack, which is just so insanely powerful with Woot Steel. So I don't think that's going to be too big of an issue. The unit's still going to be good in late game. So yeah, all that's, I think, fine. But they get another bonus. Siege weapons cost minus 33% wood. Now that's really interesting because Koreans, they have a wood discount on their units, and that explicitly does not include siege weapons at all. And it's 20%, but it obviously applies to more stuff. So Dravidians, they do have good siege. You miss siege engineers, but you otherwise have a complete siege workshop with obviously your armored elephants replacing rams. Now, at this point, you kind of wish that you had rams to benefit from that wood discount, as armored elephants cost food, but this affects your mangonels, your scorpions, your siege towers, your bombard cannons, and your trebuchets, because the wording is siege weapons, not siege workshop units. And 33% wood discount's pretty big, so yeah, I mean, Dravidian Siege is going to be a fair bit better. The Civ still has a big weakness to mangonels, but if you can produce your mangonels a bit cheaper, then maybe that can help a bit in terms of just raw land play. And again, Dravidians are a Civ that will benefit a lot if infantry become more viable because they have very good infantry. So overall, I like the changes here to this Civ. Ethiopians getting some changes. So first, their team bonus used to just be outposts and towers getting +3 line of sight. Now it is just outposts getting +3 line of sight, so no longer towers, but your outpost costs no stone, which is really interesting because people have been asking for this change in general for quite some time. Back in AOC, these buildings used to cost 25 wood and 10 stone. With the Forgotten, they changed it to 5 stone, and then with Ethiopians on your team, they now cost no stone. And if you have like really long line of sight outposts, that's really nice for Ethiopians as a Civ that's just not very mobile in general. So yeah, I think it's kind of interesting, and now is a pretty solid team bonus in what used to be one of the worst team bonuses in the game. So yeah, I mean, Ethiopians are already a top tier team game Civ for flank, but I like it. I think it's a cool change. The other change here is that the Royal Heirs Castle Unique Tech, Castle Age Unique Tech that is, it used to be Shotel Warriors train almost instantly. It has now been altered. Well, I guess first I should say that the effect of Royal Heirs is now rolled into the Elite upgrade, so Elite Shotel Warriors now go from 8-second train time to 4 seconds, so it's like you get that upgrade for free once you research Elite Shotel Warriors. But that's because this upgrade itself is now Shotel Warriors and Camel units receive -3 damage from mounted units, which in my mind includes a bunch of different, cavalry and cav archers even. I'm not entirely sure. Again, this is going to be a good topic for a future video that I'll dive into this, in more depth. We've never had anything like this in the game where units take just a flat reduced damage. Is this going to make Shotel Warriors stronger against knights and light cav and stuff? Yeah, I guess so. -3 damage is pretty nice. And applying to your camels too? Like, Ethiopians have really lousy camels. You miss bloodlines and you miss plate barding armor. But, I mean, you still have heavy camel and you have husbandry, so blast furnace. Again, I really am interested to see how useful this tech is in practice, so good idea for a future video. Overall, good changes, though, for Ethiopians. The Civ was in a little bit of an awkward spot, really only shining in team games, but now Shotel Warriors are going to be more viable. Your camels are, interestingly, a bit stronger, and your team bonus is a lot better. So yeah, I like these changes. Frank's only change here is you receive Gambesons. You don't normally go champions with the Civ, because if you're going for that type of unit, you'd rather just make throwing axemen. But hey, it's there. It's available to Franks. It's worth mentioning. Next is the Goths, and Goths get a new bonus. Or rather, it's an addition to an existing bonus, but it is in effect a new bonus. Villagers have +5 attack versus wild boar. Hunters carry +15 meat. That has always been the case. But now hunt lasts 20% longer. So your deer and your boar, you're getting extra food from them. It's not that much. I mean, Mayans get 15% on everything, and this is only, 5% more. But getting the Mayan food bonus in like the early game for your hunt is pretty strong in a Civ that is already pretty strong. So yeah, we'll have to see how useful this is. I mean, in a world where infantry is in general more viable, now Goths don't get supplies or Gambesons because, Goths have good infantry regardless. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if this is enough to make Goths more viable in aggressive settings. They're still probably going to be pretty bad in closed maps. But yeah, I'm interested to see how this affects Goths, because you're giving a Civ that is normally pretty mediocre in the early game a pretty nice Dark Age boost. So we'll see if that can sort of allow them to leverage enough of an advantage. Next up is going to be the Gujurs, and they have received some nerfs that I am very happy about. First is going to be to their Castle Age unique tech, Kshatriyas, and that is military units cost minus 25% food. This tech is absolutely insane. It's just a massive discount to like almost all the units you'd be making in any situation except on water maps. The tech used to cost 200 food and 400 gold, and now it is 500 food and 450 gold. So 50 more gold and 300 more food. This tech is just going to be harder to get going, a little bit slower to get going, and I think that is definitely for the best because this tech is so powerful. Other change to everybody's favorite unit, the Shrivunsh Rider. They used to cost 70 food and 20 gold, now they cost 70 food and 30 gold, so 50% more gold per unit. This unit's absolutely crazy, so I think it costing 30 gold is fine. It's also harder to get Kshatriyas going, so that's going to be, a little bit of a nerf there as well. And they actually got a fire rate decrease. They used to have a fire rate of 1.75, and that was really, really fast. One of the fastest for land units. For reference, that's a lot faster than sort of your standard unit. The standard unit sort of has a reload time of 2. That is like light cav, camels, swordsmen, archers, cav archers, and a lot of unique units. Like 2 is sort of the default reload time. And now that is what Shrivunsh Riders have. 1.75 was faster than a knight. So that is definitely a nerf to their overall DPS, and now they're going to be weaker in the straight-up fights, especially versus things like infantry and cavalry. They're going to be a lot less effective against. So good changes. Gujurs are just a really annoying civ to play against, and the Shrivunsh Rider was certainly a big part of that. So yeah, good changes all around. Next up is going to be the Huns, and the Huns actually had a change to their Imperial Age unique tech Atheism. It used to cost 500 food, 500 gold. Now it costs only 500 food and 300 wood. It's still a very niche tech. At least it no longer costs gold to make your opponent's relics generate less gold, right? It's sort of counterintuitive. If your opponents have 5 relics, then pick it up, I guess. Other than that, it's not too big of a deal. It's a change that I would rather have in the game than not have in the game, but it's not going to make a big difference, of course. Next up is the Incas, and this civ is getting some interesting changes. They were in a really weird spot before, just didn't have a super strong military bonus, but oh wait, look at this. Military units cost minus 15% in Dark Age, 20% in Feudal, 25% in Castle, and minus 30% in Imperial. So it's like you're getting Kshatriyas for free, and it affects, again, all of your military units that cost food. Now, you don't have cavalry with Incas, so obviously that's not too big of a deal. Notably, the civ lost supplies and does not get gambesons as sort of compensation. But yeah, you're getting a pretty nice food discount, nevertheless, on, all of your infantry units here. Slingers cost food, remember, they don't cost wood. And it does also apply to the Kamyuk. Now, the Kamyuk also had a little bit of a price increase in terms of food. That's just to offset that bonus, so it's not like super overpowered or anything like that. But that's a pretty nice military bonus, and it certainly helps your infantry play. They don't care that Eagle Warriors now cost extra food. They're just getting that discount anyway. But yeah, definitely a really cool bonus for a civ that needed a good military bonus, because they didn't have one before. Furthermore, the Castle Age unique tech Andean Sling, it used to just be skirmishers, and slingers have no longer any minimum range. Now, slingers will also get 1 extra attack. Now, slingers are really strong in Castle Age versus infantry, but they fell off a lot in Imperial Age. This is just going to help make slingers a bit stronger in the late game, so good change there. But here's the big one, guys. Team bonus. Incan team bonus used to be an absolute meme, and then it was changed to be slightly less than a meme when it was, skirmishers and spearmen gain +2 line of sight. And now we actually get a good one. Their team bonus is you start with a free llama, and suddenly Incas are going to be a really solid team game civ. I guess your archer play is still a little bit generic, but giving your entire team an extra llama is pretty nice. It's an extra 100 food. I think it's like 87 food in the early game, and that's going to make everyone have a pretty smooth Dark Age on your team. I'm really interested to see how Incas are going to be performing in team games with this bonus. And of course, this still applies to 1v1, so Incas still get it. But yeah, Incas getting some nice food savings and additions and slinger buffs. I'm really curious to see how this civ is going to perform, because they already had really efficient units. It's just they didn't quite have the power that other civs had. and we'll have to see if that is going to be changed going forward. Definitely great changes all around for sure. Italians didn't receive any changes, but again, they were notably a civ that used to have fully upgraded champions, but did not have access to Gambesons now, so they no longer have fully upgraded champions. This is likely to encourage Kondo play, so yeah, not too big of a deal. Just thought I would mention it. Japanese, another very strong infantry civ that has received Gambesons, so yeah, Japanese, if swordsman play is going to be much stronger, then Japanese are certainly going to be one of those civs to consider. Unfortunately, Samurai did not get a buff to their Pierce Armor, or Elite Samurai, which I'm not the biggest fan of, as now champions are just going to seem to be stronger than Samurai, even more so. But hey, if champion play is going to be better, Japanese are certainly a civ to consider for it. In addition, Katapuruto has had its cost decreased. It used to be 750 wood and 400 gold. Now it is 550 wood and 300 gold, so 200 less wood and 100 less gold. It's actually a really strong unique tech, and it's just going to be a bit more accessible now. Can start smashing stuff with trebs even easier. Also, right next to Katapuruto, Japanese used to not have access to hoardings, so their castles were fairly flimsy, only having access to masonry. So now your castles are going to be stronger, so you can keep your treb production going better, keep your samurai production going better in the late game. So increasing the Japanese late game a little bit on the land, where the civ was honestly struggling a bit for sure. So yeah, definitely a fan of this. Khmer getting some changes to the Ballista Elephant. They used to have actually negative armor values for elephants, cavalry, and siege. They used to have a negative armor value of 2 for all of those, so units that dealt bonus damage to those armor classes dealt 2 more damage. That felt really weird, so that's been removed. Now, before you're thinking that, OMG, these units are even more impossible to counter, you do get Ballista Elephants have gained the Hussite Wagon armor class, which, in addition to being pretty funny, means that they take a fair amount of bonus damage from things like mangonels and bombard cannons. They do get 20 Hussite Wagon armor, so they don't take like an insane amount of damage from mangonels, but it certainly does make those units more effective against Ballista Elephants in the late game, where the unit was already really tough to deal with. So I actually think this is a good change, even if it's kind of funny giving Ballista Elephant Hussite Wagon armor. Koreans. They also receive Gambesons. You miss Blast Furnace with this civ, so your champions are still not going to be fantastic, but hey, you have Gambesons for if you need it. Their interesting change this patch is going to come for the Elite Turtle Ship. And now unit used to have 6 range, same as a Castle Age Turtle Ship. They will now have 7 range. I personally think you can bump that up to 8 range, so you can sort of match that range discrepancy between like Castle Age turtle ships to war galleys to Imperial Age turtle ships to galleons. But still, 1 more range is quite nice. We never see elite turtle ships. Even if you see turtle ships in early Castle Age on maps where you don't want to invest a lot in water, like Nomad, or, I don't know, some sort of aggressive hybrid map. Yeah, you almost never see elite turtle ships. I still don't think you're going to see them all that often, but hey, it's a step in the right direction. So just a little bit of a change for Koreans there. Lithuanians. Okay, this is interesting. The civ used to start with plus 150 food. That has now been changed to each town center provides 100 food, which means that you only start with 100 extra food, but any additional town centers you make throughout the game will give you 100 more food. So this makes Lithuanians a bit stronger in the mid-game, where they did feel a little bit weak, but it nerfs them in especially like the hybrid maps where you can just send like 5 vills to wood right away and just go for a super early dock. That is definitely going to be nerfed in this change here. So we'll have to see how exactly it plays out, but again, nerfing Lithuanians a little bit in the early game and buffing them in the mid game, I think that should make the civ maybe feel a little bit more balanced. Ooh, Malay, some spicy changes already. Probably thinking, Gambesons, does the civ get it? Yes, they do. So your 2-handed Trashmen in the late game will be benefiting from the extra Pierce armor, but look at this. New civ bonus, infantry armor upgrades free. And I think this is the perfect civ to give this to, because Malay, due to the nature of their advancing to the next stage 66% faster bonus, you really have a hard time going for men-at-arms, because you just typically have fewer resources collected as you get to the next stage, in a similar vein to Chinese. And in pretty much any other civ except Chinese, giving infantry armor upgrades for free would just make their men-at-arm rush absolutely terrifying. But hey, with Malay, you can just make that swordsman play a bit easier. Your spearmen getting that extra armor for free. You're saving a fair amount of resources, and Like, this is, again, just buffing that infantry play even more. The devs keep on buffing infantry and infantry civs, so at some point, they're going to be good. I don't know if this is it right now, but we'll see. We'll see. Malians notably do not receive Gambesons because they get a bunch of extra Pierce Armor for free. So you're still only at 8 Pierce Armor for your champions, not getting up to 9. That's not too big of a deal. Their gold bonus has been changed again, though. So villagers now drop off 15% more gold. So the way I see this is that when a villager drops off, say 10 gold in the early game, the mine will have, 790 gold, for instance, after the first trip instead of 800, but you will be depositing 11.5 gold into your stockpile. So it's like your gold mines last 15% longer, and you're just getting more gold straight up. And this is a nice buff to Malians. I like this change. It means that your gold miners effectively work faster in the early game, and you get more gold over the course of the game still. So it's kind of getting like the best of both worlds with the free gold mining upgrades and the longer lasting gold mining upgrades. And Malians were a civ that really fell off after the introduction of Bohemians, and like they lost their early gold mining upgrade. They felt a lot weaker in the early game and not that much stronger in the late game. So I think this is a really good change for the civ, and it's going to make them much more powerful in the early to mid game where the civ shines in general. Furthermore, some castle changes here with the civ. The Gabetto has gotten a buff. They used to have 35 HP. Well, they actually used to have 30 HP. That was buffed to 35. It has now been buffed even more to 40 HP. And the Elite Gabetto, they used to have 45 HP, and now they're going all the way up to 50. So 5 more HP on the regular and the Elite Gabetto. This unit's already pretty darn strong. It's kind of underrated in my opinion. They're a little awkward to micro, but if you just, slam a few of these gals behind your mainline army, they will add a lot of damage. So, and we'll have to see how this unit is going to be performing in the future. In addition, Tigui, everybody's favorite Castle Age unique upgrade, it actually doesn't say it here, but the extra arrows fired from Tigui have gone from 5 extra arrows to 8 extra arrows. So you're getting a lot of arrows on your TCs as Malian. So we'll have to see, is this going to be enough to make it actually good? Because Malians miss Bracer, which makes their TCs a lot weaker in the late game. But hey, Tigui Town Center Rush. I know I want to try it at least once. I mean, 8 arrows, that's a lot of arrows. But overall, definitely a big fan of these changes for Malians. The civ felt a little bit awkward before, and, they still might need more changes in the future, but this is all going in the right direction. Persians. They have received one change, and they get Gambesons, guys. So your longswordsmen, if you were worried your longswordsmen were falling off too much in the late game, well, don't you worry. They're getting 1 extra Pierce Armor. Yeah, this change literally doesn't matter. I've seen Persian longswords be impactful once. Yeah, this doesn't matter. Persians still need several changes. I'm not the biggest fan of the state of Persians right now, and I'll be interested to see if maybe they have something else in mind with the civ, because yeah, I don't think that the civ is in an amazing state right now, and this patch doesn't really change that. Poles, they are getting a little bit of a nerf. In a similar vein to Berbers, where they got their Vil fighting bonus reduced, Poles no longer have villager regeneration in the Dark Age. It just now starts in Feudal Age. It's the same values as before. It's just you no longer get the 5 HP per minute in Dark Age. You just start in Feudal Age. It's just a nerf to Vil fighting, which is fine. And also, they did not receive Gambesons, another civ that formerly had fully upgraded champions, but now no longer does because you don't have Gambesons. So some small changes there. Poles are still really strong. Don't think you need to worry too much about playing the civ anymore. Portuguese. They also received Gambesons. You still don't have squires, so your champions aren't going to be fully upgraded, but hey, it's something that you have. Also, Elite Caravel has had its cost adjusted. It used to be 750 food, 475 gold. Now it is 700 food and 525 gold, so it's 50 less food and 50 more gold. Kind of like with the Alina Rambai change. No idea why this is like a thing, but don't think it's going to matter too much. The big thing with Portuguese is that the organ gun has been reworked, and it's weird enough that I am just going to go ahead and show you guys in the editor. Alright guys, so here we are in the editor, and these changes will definitely warrant more testing, but just to give you the quick rundown, organ gun damage has been changed from 16 attack for the regular to 7, and the elite goes from 20 to 9, but the secondary projectile damage has been changed from 2 flat to the same as the main projectile, so now it's really just 7 times 5. Also, organ gun accuracy has gone from 50% to 0%, and the attack dispersion has gone from 0.75 to 0.25. And this means, oh, also you get 1 more bonus damage versus infantry and 1 bonus damage versus buildings. So this is a very different unit. So here we have this little, stacked up group of archers, and you can see the unit attacks. These units are pretty closely clumped up here. But the attack dispersion it's small enough that, okay, they're still pretty decent against clumped up units, but this is a big nerf, I feel, to at least how organ guns were used, which is basically tanky janissaries that cost wood. I mean, they still deal a lot of damage, especially to unarmored targets. I mean, you can see that they're blowing these guys away in a couple shots. And they still deal nice, blast damage, but at the end of the day, it's still not that insane. But we'll have to see, maybe this will be better with more testing. The big one, guys, is remember how organ guns used to counter mangonels because their base attack was so high? Look at this. You're dealing 4 damage a hit to mangonels. These guys are going to get wrecked by mangonels now. So we'll have to see how effective this is in terms of like nerfing the low eco organ gun plays, but I am really intrigued by these changes. We're just going to have to see them tested out more, and like I said, I'll probably do a video on that at some point in the near future. Interesting changes all around, though, for Portuguese. Next up is the Sicilians, everyone's favorite civ to nerf. Well, I guess first and foremost, they received Gambesons, so they used to have fully upgraded champions, and they still have fully upgraded champions, but there is plenty more. Now, they did get another nerf. Don't worry, it's not just nerfs, but castles now only build 50% faster as opposed to 100% faster. I mean, it's still, much faster than a generic civ and still faster than Spanish, but it's not quite as insane. NTCs are still built 100% faster. You have some changes to the donjon. Now, the donjon, of course, replaces the watchtower for this civ, and you can see actually right here, it trains spearmen as well as sergeants. So now you can just make a bunch of spearmen and stuff from your donjons, and that's going to help versus cavalry for sure. It's an interesting change for sure. Also, donjons now function as a prerequisite for archery ranges and stables, so you don't actually need a barracks if you're making a donjon. So you can actually, skip the barracks in a lot of ways with this civ. Now, you're still going to need it to get your upgrades and whatnot, as well as like squires and arson and all that. But yeah, it's definitely some buffs to the donjons. Relatedly, sergeants are actually getting a bit of a buff. So sergeants used to have 45 HP in the feudal age, and now they have 50. In the castle age, they used to have 65, now they have 75. And the elite upgrade has had its cost reduced from 1,100 food and 800 gold to 800 food and 675 gold. So 300 less food and 125 less gold. They have been nerfed slightly, though, in that they now repair slower in the feudal age. This is probably to compensate with the fact that the unit's just a lot stronger now. And yeah, definitely an interesting change for sure. Also, they only start with 100 stone after their first TC is constructed, just a small nomad change. And what else? Also, oh yeah, First Crusade. Now it is a maximum of 5, or you get 5 sergeants per town center instead of 7, which I'm a fan of. Also, the upgrade is cheaper. It used to be 300 food, 600 gold. Now it is 400 food and 300 gold, so it's a little bit more food, but it is at least half the gold. I still don't like this tech, but at least it's weaker and a bit easier to go for. So does this change Sicilians in the meta? Again, it's just a matter of how good sergeants and donjons are. I mean, you still have like pretty solid cavalry. You have solid infantry. Archers are like not a complete disaster. I'm still not sure where exactly I want to play this civ, but yeah, we'll have to see if they can get a spot in the metagame. Slavs. We have some changes with this civ. First is going to be a change to the boyar. The boyar. They used to cost 50 food and 80 gold. Now they cost 60 food and 70 gold. So they are 10 food more expensive and 10 gold less expensive. So just a little bit of a switcheroo in the price of the unit. I think this is actually a buff to the civ. Slavs have good farming and good food income, and gold is, a very precious resource in the late game when you tend to be making a lot of boyars. So, good change there. Also, Druzhina is been buffed. And again, Slavs are another civ to benefit from the swordsman line play increase in strength. It used to cost 1,200 food and 500 gold. Now it is 900 food and 500 gold, so 300 less food to get going. And Druzhina is, of course, one of the strongest unique techs in the game. So, yeah, definitely big boost to Slav infantry play. And also, they receive Gambesons for free. They used to receive supplies for free. Now, in addition to supplies, you also get Gambesons. So, Civ with strong food eco, free supplies, and Gambesons. Again, if infantry play is more viable, I can at least see how you can go about doing that. Again, we'll have to see how good Gambesons actually is, but I know I'm at least interested in trying it out. And yeah, I mean, I think these are good changes for Slavs all around. Next is going to be the Spanish, and this is going to be a big one for you guys. The Conquistador has been nerfed. They used to have 2 melee armor and 2 pierce armor. Now they have 2 melee armor and 1 pierce armor. So archers, any sort of ranged unit is going to be stronger. Now, it's the same on the Elite Conquistador. So Elite Conquistadors still have 2 pierce armor. So it's just the Castle Age Conquistador is now weaker. However, to make up for that, Inquisition now also gives missionaries 1 extra range, so trying to push missionary play a little bit more. So they're only outranged by 1 for monks, so not that big of a deal. And also, they get another bonus. Receive 20 gold for each technology researched. And Spanish can research a lot of technologies. Also, they receive Gambesons. Okay, how good is this? Like, you go for a Men-at-Arms Rush, you get 20 gold back. You get 20 gold when you research Double Bit Axe, 20 gold when you research Horse Collar. I have absolutely no idea how useful this is going to be, but you're getting a fair amount of gold over the course of a game. It's an eco bonus for sure. Again, I'm not too sure how you can use that, but extra gold is just good in general, so I'm not going to complain about that. I think these are good changes. I think that nerfing the Conquistador play a little bit is probably for the best, and giving Spanish other things to do as well, like buffing missionaries a bit, and giving them a bit more of an eco. Like, yeah, these are interesting changes for the Civ for sure, and yeah, we'll see if they can use them a bit more on other map types than just Nomad. Tatars did actually receive a small nerf to the Keshik unique unit, which is incredibly powerful. Their train time was reduced from 16 seconds for the regular, 14 for the elite. Now it is 17 seconds for the regular and 15 for the elite, so it's 1 second longer to train Keshiks. It's a slight nerf to a unique unit that is really good. Don't think it's a big deal all around. Turks received no changes, but again, another Civ that used to have fully upgraded infantry, or, swordsmen, now they did not get Gambesons, so Turks no longer fully upgraded champions. It's not like champions were a big part of this Civ's gameplay, so yeah, don't think that's going to matter too much, but still, just mentioning it. Vietnamese, actually, another Civ that don't get Gambesons, they always miss Blast Furnace, but just another Civ not to receive that upgrade. And they have also gotten a little bit of a change to paper money. The tech used to cost 600 wood and 350 gold, which was quite pricey for just having your lumberjacks generate gold. So now it's 550 food and 200 wood. So it no longer costs gold to get your lumberjacks to generate gold, which I'm a big fan. So yeah, nice little change there. Other than that, Vietnamese are going to be quite similar. And last but not least, we have the Vikings, and they are indeed getting some changes. First up, they get Gambesons, so another Civ with strong infantry. You have a good economy for making lots of infantry, so yeah, just going to be stronger. No, Berserks did not get a buff, but Berserks are still really good, so I'm not too worried about that. At the castle, this is interesting, guys. We're actually going to start pillaging, because you get your attack bonus versus cavalry as normal, but you also get gold when killing enemy economy units. So as you can see on screen, you get 5 gold for killing a villager with your infantry, 20 for killing a trade cart, and 20 for killing a monk. I mean, Viking late game is still bad, but that's at least some cool flavor. I don't actually know how good that's going to be, but again, it's cool. Yeah, we'll just have to see how useful that is. Also, thank you, FE, for listening to my advice. They have a new Imperial Age unique tech, Bogsfeigar. Archers and longboats get 1 attack. I like this. So your archer play as Vikings is gonna be stronger in the late game. So you're still, that early imp timing isn't quite as strong as it used to be. When they got Thumb Ring removed, you still don't have Thumb Ring. But in post-imp, your archers are gonna be stronger, and that's really where Vikings struggled. Also, elite longboats in the late game kind of fell off to the wayside because they're just more expensive than galleons. So now longboats are going to be a little bit stronger as well. And if you're worried about Berserker Gang going away and getting that extra infantry regeneration, worry not, because that effect has been folded into the Elite Berserk cost, so now Elite Berserks are generating 40 HP per minute. Also, the longboats got a little bit less attack just to make up for Bogsvegar, so that's just kind of neutral. And that's it. Those are the 70 plus changes. I have no idea how long this video is going to be. It's over an hour already without any editing. Absolutely massive patch, guys. Let me know if you what you think about it in the comments, but yeah, stay tuned for more stuff coming because there is a lot to talk about going forward. But wait, I actually missed a couple things in making the video. So I just want to make sure I add those here at the very end. Apologies, guys. There are a lot of changes. And I realize I just caught these before the very end. So some changes that I did miss. Saracens actually had a slight change to their Castle Age unique tech Zealotry. It is now cheaper. It used to be 500 food, 450 gold. Now it's 400 food, 400 gold. So, 100 food less, 50 gold less. Perfectly fine stuff there. Also, they got Gambesons. Also, Turks did receive a change. Direct change, that is. Artillery, the cost of that was nerfed. So it used to be 450 wood, 500 gold. Now it's 600 food, 650 gold. So the food tag is definitely more expensive, especially in a low eco setting, and just costing more gold is also a bit more prohibitive. So definitely a bit of a nerf there as well. Lastly, I forgot to mention it, but Teutons also get Gambesons, so their champions are going to be stronger as well. So again, apologies for missing those during the actual breakdown, but hey, we have them here at the end. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time.